Hey, Slater Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world. Welcome to our special Can California Be Saved? And I'm also going to make the point here that we as conservatives should want California to be saved. I know it is very easy, and I've made these jokes many times before, like, oh, we should just have California just cut off and go into the ocean or whatever. I want California to be red again. We'll talk about how we lost it and how we can get it back in today's special. So I lived in San Diego for about 12 years. All 4 of my kids were born there. I still have a local radio show there as well with the SiriusXM national show. So that's my authority on California. California used to be a red state. Now, California has voted Democrat in every election, presidential election since 1992. But before that, Republicans won the state in every election from 1952 until 1988, except for 1 year, 1964, they voted for LBJ. But this is it used to be a red state. Nixon and Reagan both hail from California. California used to be a wonderful place to live. Until like 1990 or so, the reputation of California was California's clean, well-governed, and fun. Let's work through those 3. Let's start with the fun part. California had a very specific culture. That's it. That is the culture of California. Was the culture of California, right? This beach boys, surfboard, convertibles on the beach. Like that was a unique culture in California, combined with Top Gun. At least when I was in San Diego, right, where Top Gun was based and filmed, right? Like California had like this old school Top Gun swagger cool, right? And it doesn't have that anymore. It's gone. That swagger is gone. That California culture is gone. Hey dude, like even like the California like accent, like doesn't exist, not there. We'll get more to that in a little bit. California was also a well-run state. Right? At one point, there weren't a lot of people in California. Then Pat Brown became the governor, and in the 60s, California built everything. They built the entire University of California college system in 1968, built all the highways across the state, all the water storage and water projects and irrigation systems, because it was all focused on people, humans, making life better. Human flourishing was the goal of the California government under Pat Brown. That's when all the power plants were built. In the 60s, 70s, 80s. There's only one left. There's only one nuclear power plant left in California. They were going to tear them all down, but they had to leave over in that last one. They extended it for just a couple of years because they had to. Like the power would have gone out for tens of hundreds of thousands of people, right? So they had to keep it against their great environmentalist desires. But everything that is good about California was from the 60s. So California went from a clean, well-run, and cool state to a filthy, horribly run, and culturally non-distinct state. And then expensive on top of that. So how could anyone live there? Now the question is, how did this happen? Well, a couple things happened. First, their open immigration policy, or sanctuary city policies, attracted not only immigrants, but a certain type of immigrant. Legal or illegal, it doesn't really matter, right? They attracted a certain type. There's been some analysis done comparing Texas immigrants with California immigrants. Actually, this study I'm speaking of specifically is Hispanics. So Hispanics in California versus Hispanics in Texas. And on the whole, Texas attracted a more entrepreneurial-minded and therefore also a more conservative worldview immigrant. And California attracted the opposite of that. Already over a third of Californians in total are on government welfare in some way. And that includes illegal aliens. Like illegal aliens are eligible for all this stuff. More recently, the state assembly and Senate passed a bill giving $150,000 for a down payment on a house for illegal aliens. Okay? That type of government, that type of magnet is going to attract a certain type of immigrant, legal or illegal. And you do that for decades, well, you're going to get a very different place, which California now is. Another thing, another force at play in California, they'll pass some bill and any sane-minded person across the country will say, that's insane. What is wrong with you people? What do you want people to move? And the answer is yeah, they do. They want people to leave. The Democrats in California want certain people to leave. They want the illegal aliens to come in because they're dependent on them. But they want conservatives to leave. It's called the Curley effect. The idea of it is, I don't care if you leave because you're my enemy. That's what Gavin Newsom would say. I don't care if you leave, conservative activists, because you're my enemy and you're not going to vote for me, so get out of here. It's called Curley effect. It's named after James Curley. He was the 4-time mayor of Boston in early 1900s. And his stated goal, this is like out in the open, was he wanted to kick out all of his opponents. In particular, people who weren't Irish. But in general, just anyone out of the city. This also happened in Chicago with the black mayor. It's like same idea. Like, we want to make things so oppressive for my enemy that they just leave. Now, any normal person would look at that and be like, well, that's horrible. How could a mayor act like that? Or how could a governor act like that? To hurt people so badly that they move, to make life so intolerable and so difficult to exist that people just leave. Like, that's terrible. Well, you're a normal person. Of course you think that. But James Curley and Gavin Newsom, people like that, they just want power. And one way to keep power is to keep out all your would-be opponents. Get them out, kick them out, and say good riddance. It's called the Curley effect. I think there's been a lot of that in California over the last couple of decades. You hear a business or conservatives will move out of California. I think Gavin Newsom and a lot of these Democrats say, good, one less vote against me in the next election. Another force to consider with California is Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has propped up California for the last few decades now. But there's no real reason why Silicon Valley is in San Francisco. The only reason it's there is because of a guy named William Shockley. Back in the 50s, William Shockley was one of the top scientists in the world, and he focused his research on semiconductors. And he worked for Bell Labs in New Jersey. But then his mom got sick, and he went to go take care of his mom in this sleepy little town called Palo Alto. And he brought with him a bunch of his scientists and opened up a place called Shockley Semiconductor Laboratory. And 8 of these people at this laboratory went on to leave. They're called the Traitorous 8, if you want to search this up and do your own research. And these Traitorous 8 went on to found all the initial first big companies in what is now known as Silicon Valley, Intel and AMD and a bunch of these other big companies. And that's when Palo Alto, and that's why Palo Alto became this hotbed of computers. My point of bringing this story up is, if William Shockley's mom lived in Tulsa, then Silicon Valley would be in Tulsa. If William Shockley's mom lived in Cleveland, then that's where he would have gone, and that's where the Traitorous 8 would have set up their companies, and Silicon Valley would be Cleveland. And I like this hit me when I was growing up. I was like, why is it called Silicon Valley? Like, is there a lot of silicon there? It's like a lot of natural resources of silicon. Like, no, that's what William Shockley's mom lived there. And it just so happens to be really nice weather too, so a lot of people stayed. But there's no reason for Silicon Valley to be in California in the first place. So why does this matter? Well, if there's no reason for it to have been there in the first place, there's also no reason that it would stay there forever. And Democrats in California have been able to kick out a lot of conservatives and a lot of businesses and not feel the consequences of it because Silicon Valley was making them so much money. But there doesn't have to be there won't be a Silicon Valley forever. California's rested on these laurels for a long time. Right now, the richest 10% of Californians pay 70% of the income tax. The richest 1%, most in Silicon Valley, pay 50% of all the income taxes in California. So California's been able to rely on just a few people in order to pay most of the income tax. Now, the money in Silicon Valley is waning. The power of Silicon Valley is waning. We have tech hubs opening up all over the country now. Also, maybe tech people are becoming even more conservative now, which won't help Sacramento, the governor there either. So that's an interesting dynamic that's happened in the last few decades that's changing now. And it's not going to be good for the Democrats in power. So that's a hopeful point. I forgot to mention the filthiness. I'm sorry. The California is now filthy. So it's poorly run and super expensive and disgusting. That's a bathroom. That's a public bathroom in San Diego. San Diego has a major public bathroom problem. There's very few of them, but the ones that exist look like that. the city council built a public toilet. It's literally just a toilet. It's called a Portland loo. It's just like a little cylinder box that you go. It's just one toilet. And it cost $600,000. This was back in 2010. $600,000 just to build a toilet. And the drugs and prostitution were so bad that they hired a security guard for $100,000 a year to guard it as well. So that's just an example. It's just disgusting. It's just a disgusting place now. Decades of bad governance can really do a number on a place. Now let me end on this before we get to our great guests. I don't want this to be the case. For a long time, so I used to live in Tennessee. I first lived in Tennessee after college, and then I moved to San Diego for 12 years. And when I was in Tennessee, it was really fun and easy to make fun of California. And then I moved to California. And then I moved out, now I'm back in Tennessee again, right? But I don't want California to be awful. I don't want it to be a terrible place. I don't want it to be run by Gavin Newsom. You know, there's the old Aesop fable, the country mouse and the city mouse. Aesop wrote this 2,600 years ago, right? So these are ancient, timeless truths. I'm a country mouse, right? So I'd rather be in Tennessee. Obviously, it's where I am, right? And it's easy for people like me to wish for a demise of our cities or wish for a demise of California, right? Like they got what they voted for and they should get it good and hard. I get that. I believed that and I made those jokes and all that. But now that I think about it, I actually would prefer that our cities be thriving and wonderful and clean and safe and the crown jewels of our wonderful country. I want to be proud of our cities. I want New York City to be great again. I want California to be great again. I want Los Angeles and San Francisco to be great, just like America. It's a part of America. California used to be a solidly red state, and I believe it can be again. And I think that's true with Boston, and I think it's true in New York, I think it's true with Chicago. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's been kickstarted by Trump. The failures of the left's governance is clearer than ever, especially in California with the wildfires. It's clearer than ever. People are starting to wake up. And if we continue to win in DC with Trump and Doge and all that, people will be able to see the stark difference between their progressive leadership that they've been living under, this tyranny they've been living under for all these decades, and this new conservative leadership and governance, and how much better this is. And people are going to say, wow, I want that actually. So my goal for this MAGA movement is to win so much that even California turns red. That to me would be proof of a total MAGA victory.